Connective tissue that is called bone. Bone is a special type of connective tissue. The bone is also called as rigid connective tissue. In that rigid connective tissue usually present in endoskeletal system. In endoskeletal system, presence of rigid connective tissue. That rigid connective tissue usually called bone or bones. Here this is the rigid connective tissue. That rigid connective tissue contains a special type of cells. The cells which are present in a bone. Such cells are called as osteocytes. The osteocytes which are present inside the cavities. Presence of cells, osteocytes. Such cavities in a bone, that is called as lacunae, singularly called lacuna. Here inside the lacunae cells which are present inside the matrix. The matrix of the bone called cosine. Matrix of the bone called cosine. Usually bone tissue that is called as osseous tissue. Here the bone is always rigid. The matrix is always rigid. The matrix is made up of calcium. Here in the case of bone, in the case of osseous tissue, the matrix which are arranged in the form of a concentric rings. The matrix is always arranged in the form of a concentric rings. Therefore, that is the one that is called as lamellae. The matrix which are arranged in the form of a rings, that is called as lamellae. The lamellae. And between the lamellae, again, some cavities, such cavities are called as lacunae. Inside the lacunae presence of cells, such cells are called as osteocytes. These are the parts which are present in the case of osseous tissue or bone tissue. In the case of elongated bone, suppose it is the bone, femur bone. Elongated bone in which occurrence of a cavity inside the bone, presence of a cavity. Usually that cavity is called bone cavity. In that bone cavity, presence of a tissue, specialized tissue present in a bone cavity, that is called as bone marrow. The bone marrow is very important for the formation of blood. The blood is formed from the bone marrow itself. That is the condition that is called as hemophysis. Hemophysis is the process, the formation of blood from the bone marrow. Here in that bone marrow, where there is occurrence of megakaryotic tissue is present. The bone marrow tissue is responsible for that formation of a blood. That process is called as hemophysis. Here, the outermost covering of the bone. That covering that is called as periosteum. Outermost covering of the bone called periosteum, and innermost covering of the bone, that is called as endosteum. And in between that endosteum and periosteum, presence of a tissue. That tissue that is called as bone tissue. Presence of bone tissue is present. special type of connective tissue, bone tissue. The bone tissue is arranged in the form of a systems. Bone tissue is arranged in the form of a tissue, arranged in the form of a systems, that is called as Haversian systems. Each Haversian system, here it is the bone, elongated bone, centrally there is a cavity, bone cavity, inside the bone cavity there is a bone marrow. Here it is the hard region of the bone that is covered by periosteum, and again covered by innermost covering that is called endosteum. Outermost covering is called as the periosteum. In between occurrence of bone tissue is modified, occurring in the form of a number of systems that is called as Haversian systems. Here one Haversian system. Each Haversian system shows centrally there is a canal. There is a canal. That canal that is called as Haversian canal. And inside that Haversian canal, presence of nerve cell, arteries, and arteries and veins. These are the blood vessels which are present in the region of Haversian canal. Around that Haversian canal, presence of a matrix. The matrix is always rigid and also which are occurring in the form of ring-like structures around the Haversian canal. Around the Haversian canal, presence of a ring-like matrix. The matrix is arranged in the form of a ring-like structure. It is the ring-like matrix that is called lamellae. The lamellae means a matrix arranged in the form of rings called lamellae. And in between the lamellae, presence of empty spaces, presence of spindle shaped empty spaces which are present in between the matrix. In between the matrix, presence of empty spaces. Such empty spaces are called, these empty spaces are called lacunae. Empty spaces are called lacunae. Inside that lacunae, presence of cells. Only one cell is present in each lacuna. In each empty space, presence of only one spindle shaped cell. That spindle shaped cell that is called as osteocyte is present inside the lacuna. Inside the lacuna, presence of osteocyte. The osteocyte produces protoplasmic outgrowths. These protoplasmic outgrowths which connects cell to cell. The protoplasmic processes from the osteocyte. The protoplasmic processes from the osteocyte which are connected to other protoplasmic processes. These are the protoplasmic projections from the osteocytes are called canaliculi. The protoplasmic outgrowths, protoplasmic connections between the cells, the protoplasmic the growths usually called canaliculi. Canaliculi. It is the structure of a single aversion system. The aversion system that shows centrally a cavity called aversion canal. Around the cavity presence of ring-like matrix that is called as lamellae. The lamellae or matrix is always rigid because of the presence of a calcium salts which are present, particularly in the case of lamellae, or the lamellae which are arranged in the form of a ring-like structure. Here the matrix, it is the one that is called as a matrix. Matrix is arranged in the form of a ring-like structures. Matrix of the bone, that is called as osine. Matrix of the bone called osine. Osine is arranged in the form of a lamellae. And in between the lamellae, presence of empty spaces are called as a lacunae. Inside the lacuna, presence of only one osteocyte is present. Osteocytes which produces a protoplasmic processes called canaliculi. And the two aversion systems, which are interconnected, radiating, interconnected system that is called as Volkmann's canal. The canal that connects the two aversion systems. The canal which connects the two aversion systems of the bone, that is called as Volkmann's canal. It is the structure of aversion system present inside the bone. In a bone, outermost covering called periosteum, in innermost covering called endosteum. In between that, presence of bone tissue. Bone tissue shows number of aversion systems. Aversion system is made up of different cells, a matrix, different kinds of matrix, canaliculi. Inside the aversion canal, presence of nerve cells, vein, and arteries which are present, particularly in the case of aversion system of the bone. One more type of special connective tissue, that is called as blood. Blood is fluid connective tissue. It is a special type of connective tissue. It is called fluid connective tissue. In which, in the case of blood, presence of the cells and intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces which are filled with plasma. Particularly in the case of blood. Here in a blood, occurrence of different types of cells, and in between the cells there is a space. That space is filled with a plasma. Structurally, the blood containing two different parts. Blood is differentiated into two parts. The liquid part of the blood, that is called as plasma. Liquid part of the blood is called as a plasma. Solid or cellular part of the blood, that is called corpuscles. Or what is called formed elements. Two different portions, like blood, liquid part of the blood, that is called as a plasma. Plasma is yellow colored fluid. It contains majorly water, proteins, nutrients, organic and inorganic substances. The plasma is the yellow colored part of the blood, that is called as a plasma. The plasma is about 55%. 50% of blood, that is in a blood, plasma is about 55%, and remaining portion of the blood, that is about 45%, that is called as a corpuscles or formed element. Here the formed element which contain different kinds of formed elements or corpuscles in the case of the blood. The corpuscles includes RBCs, red blood corpuscles, WBCs, white blood corpuscles, and platelets. There are three different components of corpuscles: RBCs, WBCs, platelets. Then the RBCs are called erythrocytes. RBCs technically called erythrocytes. WBCs are called leukocytes. The platelets are also called thrombocytes. There are three components in the case of corpuscles: RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. Here, erythrocytes, which are occur in the form of biconcave structure. Inside this cell, presence of a hemoglobin is present. Therefore, here in these cells, absence of nucleus. Instead of nucleus, presence of one of the chromoprotein. That chromoprotein is called as a hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is present in the RBC. Therefore, in which absence of a nucleus, therefore these RBCs are called as enucleated cells. That is RBC cell, because absence of nucleus. Instead of nucleus, one of the pigment, one of the chromoprotein, that is called as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is very important for carrying of oxygen. Usually RBCs which are enucleated cells. Next, come to that WBCs. WBCs are also called leukocytes. Here the leukocytes which are occur in the form of different types of leukocytes. Some of the leukocytes are called usually leukocytes which are the WBCs or corpuscles or cells present in the blood. Inside these cells, presence of a nucleus is present. In which nucleus is present, therefore these cells are called as nucleated cells. The WBCs which are nucleated cells, RBCs and platelets are enucleated cells. Here also absence of nucleus. In RBCs, absence of nucleus. In the case of WBC, presence of a nucleus. Therefore, the name called nucleated cells. Such nucleated cells, based on presence and absence of a granules, leukocytes were classified into two different types: A granulocytes and granulocytes. Two different majorly WBCs which are classified into two major types: A granulocytes and granulocytes. Here the proteinaceous granules which are absent in WBCs. In this type of WBCs, proteinaceous granules which are present in the case of WBCs called granulocytes. Here A granulocytes includes two different types of A granulocytes. One is monocytes and lymphocytes. Monocytes and lymphocytes are type of WBCs comes under A granulocytes. In the case of granulocytes, occurrence of three different types of granulocytes. One is basophils. basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils. There are three different types of granulocytes. Totally, in the case of WBCs, 5 different types of WBCs: monocytes, lymphocytes, basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils. Yeah, these are the cells which are involved for body defenses or immunity. WBCs which are involved for body defenses or maintenance of immunity in the body. But RBCs which are involved for carrying up oxygen molecules during the process of respiration. WBCs which are classified into monocytes, lymphocytes, basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils. And one more type of corpuscle, in the case of blood, it is called as platelets or also called as thrombocytes. These are the cells which are occur in the form of irregular cells. The cells which are irregular, in which absence of nucleus, in which presence of a protein is present, particularly in the case of platelets or thrombocytes. These are cells which are involved for blood clotting process. For the purpose of blood clotting, these are the cells which are very responsible, that is called platelets or thrombocytes. These are the major components in the case of special fluid connective tissue, that is called as a blood containing plasma and the corpuscles. In the case of plasma, in which it contains different components, is a blood fluid. The corpuscles are formed elements which are classified into RBCs, WBCs, and platelets.